Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today we're going to react to what happened in RadioShack. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I ain't even set my shit up properly. Oh boy, I ain't even set my shit up. Y'all just gonna have to bear with me while I go on ahead and set everything up, because I ain't put my headphones in. I got the speakers in and shit. That was me, right? Alright, let's check this video out though. Let's figure out what happened to RadioShack. I ain't seen the RadioShack since 2015, bro.
This video is 100% a result of viewer requests. The first time I saw the topic, it was mentioned in the comments, and I passed over it. I figured I would cover it down the line because there were other topics I wanted to get to sooner. Then the requests kept coming in, to a degree where I figured there must be some things I'm not aware of, and there must be a reason this is so heavily requested. So I decided to investigate. And I'll say right now, it's shocking that this decline didn't knock them out faster. They're like a boxer that's just been taking hits from the first round, and oddly enough, they're still standing. But the knockout punch can't be far. I was quickly fascinated by their decline, and honestly, this was the first time in my life I'd ever had any interest in the company known as RadioShack. The company was started all the way back in 1921 by two brothers in Boston, and as the name implies, they sold radio equipment. It had the same name as today, but back then RadioShack was 2 words. Today it officially seems to be 1 word, though it's still written as 2 in a lot of places. Like if I search RadioShack in Google, their website result comes up as 2 words. In 1995, they changed their logo from 2 words to 1, and I suppose that led to the slight name alteration of the entire company. But it all started in the early 20s, and everything went well for the next 40 years. The company expanded and built some large store locations, but by the early 1960s, RadioShack was already struggling. They were selling radios just fine, but their costs were outweighing their sales, and they just couldn't make the business work properly. So a man named Charles Tandy, who was strangely the owner of a leather company, bought RadioShack and started making changes. The biggest change was probably switching to smaller store locations. The thinking behind this is that they would see which products they sell best and only sell them. The products that weren't selling as well were just taking up space, without bringing them much benefit. And it seemed to be effective. This, along with many other changes, saved the store and put them in a good position once again. Also in the 1970s, CB radios became a big fad. And not surprisingly, this was a good thing for RadioShack. Charles Tandy passed away in 1978, but RadioShack was still owned by the Tandy Company.
The Tandy Company.
In the 1990s, the decision was made to focus a little less on radio and electronic parts and a little more on popular electronic products.
Like cell
They went
phones.
pretty heavily into cell phone sales.
Yep.
It was right around the beginning of the 2000s when RadioShack started to decline once again. And they never recovered from this one. This decline is the same one that they're experiencing today, which is what's so shocking. They've been on a steady decline for over 15 years, and somehow still standing. Have you ever played a game of Monopoly where it's clear you've lost, but you just refuse to let it end? The opponent has hotels all over the board, and all you have are a few houses, and the 2 cheap purple properties. You keep landing on bad spots, and mortgaging things to pay it off. Maybe you get a good chance card or pass go and get $200, and that keeps you in a little bit longer. You make some crazy trades to pay off some debts. Before you know it, you've been playing for half an hour, and all you've been doing is making little moves just to stay alive.
Damn.
You haven't done anything that would help you come back and win. This is what RadioShack has been doing. They made deals with cell phone companies, set up kiosks in Target, rebranded themselves as The Shack. They did so many different things over this period, but none of it was going to turn things around. All it did was benefit them a little bit immediately, but most of it ended up hurting them in the long term. If you were trying to pinpoint a year where things went really bad for them, I'd say 2012 is a good place.
Damn.
This is the year they went into negative profits. $72 million profit in 2011. $139 million loss in 2012, and a $400 million loss the year after. Between then and now, everything spiraled out of control. Soon after, they were taken off the New York Stock Exchange because their stock price went really low, less than $1, and they weren't trading enough shares to meet the requirements to be on the exchange. Their employees tried suing them for promoting their 401ks that were tied up in RadioShack stock.
Wow.
The whole thing was a complete mess. Here's something else that
That's some
stands
scumbag
out.
shit.
I showed you the negative profits starting in 2012. Well, negative profits means they're not making money to run their business, so they have to seek money from elsewhere, commonly a loan. They were able to get a loan from a place called Salus, a $250 million loan. But as a condition for this loan, RadioShack agreed that they wouldn't be allowed to close more than 200 stores in a single year without Salus approving. Well, when companies are losing money, the strategy is usually to identify the stores that are losing the most money and close them down.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense. Close those stores and you no longer have the losses from them. And theoretically, the overall profit should instantly start to increase. We see it all the time. So when RadioShack knew they were in a position where they would likely have to start closing stores, it wasn't a great idea to give Salus this power that would prevent them from doing it. But also remember, RadioShack was in a terrible position and needed this money to maintain operations. They may have gone out of business if they hadn't gotten this loan. They were backed into a corner, so they agreed to these conditions. Fast forward a little bit, RadioShack is losing money like crazy and desperately wants to start closing stores. Salus doesn't let them. Salus doesn't think this is the right way to go. But RadioShack has reason to believe that they have too many locations and too close to each other, and they're basically stealing customers from themselves. So now we have RadioShack severely struggling, and Salus won't even let them downsize with dignity.
Damn.
By the way, if you had any doubt about how much RadioShack was struggling, I hope it's clear now. In the beginning of 2015, RadioShack declared bankruptcy, which now enabled them to start closing stores.
Again, this company is not at all, I mean, it traded for 9 cents a share in the OTC pink sheets. We already knew this was going to happen.
They immediately announced the closure of nearly 1,800 stores. Right after the bankruptcy, a company called Standard General bought RadioShack, though I don't see why they would want it. As if all this wasn't enough, RadioShack filed bankruptcy, again, earlier this year. It's closing 1,000 more stores, and now only 70 locations remain open. They may linger on with a few locations, but it's effectively out of most of our lives. So the question remains, where did they go wrong? Everything spiraled out of control over the past few years, but how did they even get in that position? There's 3 things I think most contributed to all of this. And before you say it, I'm aware of the management issues. There was a 10-year period where they changed CEOs every year or two, which certainly isn't a great sign. But to me, it's more of a symptom than a cause. Though eventually it does become a cause as well, but I'm leaving it off my top 3 list. A big contributor to all this was, ready for it? The internet.
Pretty
Shocking,
much.
right? But the internet hurt RadioShack more than most companies, for multiple reasons. One is that they were late to the party. Almost every store sells their products online. Any retailer you can think of, go to their website and they probably sell stuff there. It's been that way for about 20 years now, but for RadioShack, it's been that way for about 10 years, meaning they missed out on 10 years of internet sales. And right about that time when this became a big thing and RadioShack ignored it, is right about when their troubles started. And think about a lot of the stuff RadioShack sells. Electronic parts, resistors, wires, fuses. The kind of stuff you can easily order online and don't really need to see it in person before you buy it.
The last time I went to RadioShack, I needed screwdrivers. I needed screwdrivers to put a new hard drive in my PS3. And I went to RadioShack, got the hard drive and the screwdriver. That was 2015. That's when I first got the Roxio. And I had that PlayStation 3 collecting dust. I had my PlayStation 3, it was collecting dust. and that motherfucker wasn't working because it needed a new hard drive. The hard drive in it had, I believe it malfunctioned, something like that. The hard drive in my PS3 malfunctioned, and the only way I could fix it was to get a new. That's what the internet said. The internet said go get a new hard drive, and I was like, oh, okay. But I needed a certain screwdriver because the screws are very tiny. I had to go to RadioShack to go get them. Got them from RadioShack. Got the hard drive. That was the last time I went to RadioShack. No, I take that back. I went to RadioShack in I want to say close to 2016, but not 2016. So we still in 2015. So I went there again because I needed a phone charger. I needed a phone charger, and they was the only ones in the mall because I was still in college around this time. I was going to a community college, and my community college was inside the mall. So I was leaving. I was getting ready to leave. I said, fuck it. Let me go get the phone charger for my phone because my phone charger for my phone that I already had was dead. And this is before I knew about Dollar Tree. Because once I found out about Dollar Tree, I never went back. I bought, nigga, I got so many fucking Dollar Tree phone chargers in this damn house. Some of them still in the pack. I ain't even opened them up yet. I got so many Dollar Tree chargers right now. It's ridiculous.
These kinds of products are perfect for online sales.
Facts.
And on top of that, RadioShack is known to be sorta small. Well, if you need a specific part, what are the chances RadioShack will have it?
Exactly.
Who knows? They're small, so they might not. But what are the chances the internet will have it? Nearly 100%. RadioShack is the type of store where you run in, grab what you need, and leave. I remember a while ago I walked into a RadioShack just to look around. I expected it to be sort of like a Best Buy. I expected to see the new televisions, cameras, computers, DVDs, maybe a video game demo, all the fun stuff you see when you walk into an electronics store. But all I found there were electronic parts, some alarm clocks, a few cell phones, which were fake by the way. I mean, the screen was just a picture glued to it. There was nothing interesting to look at. It's not that type of store.
I'd say like diet Best Buy or low calorie Best Buy.
There's really nothing gained by going there. And besides being able to get it a little quicker, I don't see why someone would buy something there as opposed to online. The internet seems like a perfect outlet for really most retailers, but RadioShack especially. Yet they didn't do it. They let the opportunity pass them for years, and they suffered from it. Reason 2 is a bit of a continuation from Reason 1, but it's the products they sell. Let's go to the RadioShack website. An AM/FM stereo headset, but luckily there's a big deal going on, and it's only $48.
Wow.
Here's some Incredible Flips headphones. 30% off, which brings them down to $140.
Jesus Christ.
Are there people buying Incredible Flips headphones from RadioShack when they cost about the same as Beats?
Facts. Why would I buy Nick Cannon headphones? Y'all do realize that's Nick Cannon headphones, right? Why would I buy some Nick Cannon headphones and I can get some Sonys for the same price? I can get some Sonys for cheaper. I can get some Sony headphones for cheaper. Why would I buy some Nick Cannons? I can get some Sony headphones for about... I ain't trying to hate on black business. I'm all about supporting black business, but bro, when there's cheaper options out there, bro, I can't support that, bro. I'm sorry. You can't just be out here selling absurd prices, and I know that there's a more even qualified company that sells them for cheaper. You can't do that. Nick Cannon, I'm sorry, but you can't do that.
Think in your head right now how much this might cost. Remember, it's 30% off. The answer? $33. So you might want to go rush to the website and get it? I'm just looking at the homepage. Nope. This is what came up when I clicked on their site.
I go on Amazon and get that for
$3.
$3.
Selection of products and overpriced. are there that many people tinkering with radios and electronics to merit such an emphasis on these products?
I don't really know what RadioShack sells.
I guess that's the problem. I mean, electronics parts.
I go to the Best Buy site, I get computers, HD TVs, video games. People complain about Best Buy, but from what I can tell, they're golden compared to RadioShack.
RadioShack filed for bankruptcy last week. Who's been in a RadioShack this month? Okay, that's why.
Reason 3 goes along with Reason 2, which went with Reason 1. Reason 3 is their cell phone involvement. In the 1990s, they got into the business of selling cell phones.
Which wasn't a bad idea.
Boy, was this a bad idea. But not at first. Cell phones were blowing up. It sounds strange saying getting involved in cell phones in the 90s was a bad idea.
It wasn't a bad idea.
It was a bad idea in the way they did it. They were only involved in selling them. In the 90s, it was harder to get cell phones than it is today. Today you can't walk through a mall without being offered a cell phone contract. But back then you had to kind of know where to go. And a place many people knew where to go was RadioShack. It was good at first, so they really went all in on it, and started ignoring the rest of their business, which may be why that part of their business is so bad today. All of their staff was occupied by trying to sell these phones, and spending a tremendous amount of time filing paperwork once a sale was made. They neglected the customers looking to purchase other products. Then, after a few years, all the service providers opened their own stores. Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, whoever your provider is, chances are you bought it from their store, not a RadioShack. RadioShack pushed aside the type of products that they were once known for to sell these cell phones, and now people are getting their cell phones elsewhere. What became essentially half their business became pointless. And as we saw in our first 2 reasons, the other half of their business is also sorta pointless as well. When we combine all this, we have to ask ourselves, does RadioShack sell anything that I wouldn't rather buy somewhere else?
Facts.
The answer for me is no. The electronic parts, I would sooner go to Amazon. The cell phones, I would sooner go to the provider. And most else of what they sell, I don't even want. Maybe I would buy some batteries from them if the sale was good, but it's hard to maintain a business based on that.
How could they go? What did they do with all the money I spent on AAA batteries 9 years ago?
Damn.
Like I said, as of today, RadioShack is pretty much done. They lasted nearly 100 years and who knows, may technically hit that 100-year mark. A 20-year decline that involved 2 bankruptcies, not to mention the financial trouble they had over 50 years ago, yet they're still standing. But for everyone watching this, they might as well be gone. Unless you're one of the lucky few to live near one of those 70 locations, they're out of your life altogether. I can't say I have any positive memories of the company. In fact, I only really have that one, and it was rather disappointing. But I'm sure that's because I'm just not old enough to have experienced the company at its peak, and I'm sure this is why I initially passed over this topic. My experience was well after this massive decline began. But if you had the opportunity to experience them in one of their better years, let me know what it was like. Or if you experienced them in one of their bad years, especially toward the end, or even today. I'd like to hear that too. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.
Damn. RIP to RadioShack, man. Y'all, I feel like if y'all would have jumped on the well, maybe if y'all would have sold y'all products for cheaper, then maybe motherfuckers would have fucked with you more. See, when you selling shit, when you selling shit at a very high price, of course niggas not gonna fuck with you. Especially when we know we can get it from somewhere else for cheaper. So RadioShack, you kind of did it to yourself on this one, bro. But anyways, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I'll see you on the next video. Till then, peace out.